Thank you. There's a bit of a tradition this year of Australian politicians falling off stages. I nearly pulled it off. Michaela sold me pretty hard then. We'll see how we go. I, of course, would also like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which we meet today, the Turrbal and Jagera peoples, and pay respects to elders past and present. I thought I recognised Joseph as he walked up onto the stage, and I realised, of course, it's Brisbane welcomes to country for National Rugby League competitions on television that I recognise him from, and that is a very fine tradition in the National Rugby League. Sid, Dominic, that presentation, that work of art, and the video were really, I think, very inspiring for people here. I could see the reaction of the Australian delegates and international delegates around the room. It's a rare thing, I think, to be able to so clearly articulate the relationship between our 60,000 years of First Nations history in Australia, which, you know, for the international delegates who are here, it's something we're very proud of. No other country has that as a national, cultural, historical and scientific asset, and it matters for Australia in the world that we do have it. But being able through a work of art to articulate for Australians who are wondering about how we build this connection between First Nations science in land management, food security, health, aquaculture, you know, all of the achievements of First Nations culture, been able to link that in a way to the challenges of modern science through a work of art, and also through a video explanation of it. I just think that's an extraordinary achievement, and we ought to make sure it's elevated around Australia. It's a really, really powerful work of art, so thank you. I do want to acknowledge, of course, Dr. Catherine Woodthorpe, who AO CEO of the Australian Academy of Technological Sciences and Engineering and the chair of CAETS. You just heard from Catherine then. It is, as Her Excellency the Governor-General just said then, 50th birthday is a big deal indeed. There's a proud record of achievement, and the Academy's played a really powerful role and will play a really powerful role, and Catherine's leadership is really important to those of us in government who deal with the Academy. Professor Tony Haymet, the Chief Scientist, understand the Honourable Andrew Powell, Queensland Minister for Environment, Tourism and Minister for Science and Innovation. I met with him last week. It was terrific to talk with him about Queensland's priorities. The Honourable Karen Andrews, one of my predecessors in this portfolio, is here. I'm learning that there's a sort of brotherhood and sisterhood of former industry and science ministers that I'm very privileged to have joined. And I can tell you I feel the sense of urgency and the imperative of how important this responsibility is at this particular time in Australia's history. My friend Lance McCallum, the MP for Banamba in Queensland, is here as well. You're very welcome. Vice-Chancellor Deborah Terry from the University of Queensland. There may be some other Vice-Chancellors here. I'm very sorry if I hadn't acknowledged you, but Vice-Chancellors all, but Deborah, it's been very good to talk with you this morning. And my friend Ambassador Gabriele Vicentin from the European Union. It's very good to see you here. All of today's speakers, leaders from the university and research and science sectors from Australia, and I particularly want to say from those 31 countries that are represented here today, we are honoured to have you here in Australia. We deeply value that you put time aside in your research calendars, in your leadership calendars, to make time for Australia, to make time for Brisbane, and to make time for this assembly of engineers, scientists and researchers from around the world. The business of of technological sciences and engineering is, of course, outwardly facing and collaborative. At a time when, the world faces all of the geopolitical challenges that we face, it's important to underscore collaboration is key. International collaboration is fundamental, making sure that we share the benefits of scientific research and engineering research in all of our interests. That is the business of science, that is the business of universities, and you are so welcome here in Brisbane, our third best city. Don't put that in the transcript, team. But I'm really pleased to be here. And Brisbane, while I joke, I was just saying to Vice Chancellor Deborah Terry, there is something exciting happening in Queensland, really. The universities, this city as a gateway to the Pacific and to the Southeast Asian region. The work that's going on from industry and mining and resources and manufacturing through robotics, all of these sectors through with their university sector. This is a great time. This is a great time to be here in Brisbane and make the most of it, I say to all of you. Of course, 50 years is a long time. I'm 51 and it feels like a long time. And the Australia of today is really a very different place from the Australia of 1975. There are, of course, the obvious cultural and demographic changes. Back in 1975, no more than 1.8% of Australians were born in Asia or the Middle East. Today, migrants from India alone make up nearly double that proportion, 3.4% of Australia's resident population. That is a really good change for Australia. The diversity of our experiences and perspectives, added depth of cultural richness, and a much larger pool of skills and talents from which we can fashion a future that's made here in Australia. More than 60% of the qualified engineers in Australia today are migrants, and nearly a quarter, 23%, of that cohort were born on the subcontinent. Nearly half of Australia's tech sector workforce born overseas. Aspiring scientists and scholars from around the world come to Australia to undertake research, making up 40% of Australia's PhD enrolments. Just imagine how much poorer Australia would be, not just in economic terms, but in terms of the skills and capabilities, the expertise and output, without these precious members of our community. And to those of you here today who are born overseas or whose parents were born overseas, let me just say unequivocally, this government backs you to the hilt, and we welcome your contribution to solving Australia's national challenges, and we will push back against the kind of extremism that we saw just a few weekends ago. And we will provide the leadership that is required. Science and engineering, outwardly facing. And of course, within Australia, we are so much richer because of our migrant experience. And of course, the last 50 years have seen much more changes too, in the way that we think, in the way that we work, in the way that we communicate. Robotics in manufacturing processes, autonomous and remote machinery in mining, agriculture and manufacturing, digitalisation in the retail sector, personal computers, smartphones, in the internet, in every workplace, in logistics and in every home. Now the emergence of artificial intelligence as a general purpose technology with enormous potential to shape better outcomes in healthcare and service provision, and of course a set of consequential decisions for firms, for governments, for civil society and Australians themselves to shape this technology in Australia's national interest. In 1975, Very few of us, I think, could have foreseen the nature of those tectonic transformations in our economy and our society. For that generation, the arrival of colour TV in March of 1975 seemed like a really big deal. I can tell you that on the Ayres farm it didn't arrive until about 1984. As new technologies arrived, Australians adapted and adopted them to make their working lives more productive, more rewarding, and often much safer than before. No one of us can predict how Australia or the wider world will look, feel or sound 50 years from now. But what I do know is that this government, the Albanese Labor government, can and is anticipating the big challenges and the opportunities that come with them. Climate change, unpredictable future public health challenges, growing geostrategic competition, the urgent national mission here in Australia to build 1.2 million more homes over the next 5 years. These challenges should mobilise and energise Australians so that all of Australia's national skills and our talents in science, technology and engineering are brought to bear. Fundamental to this is the urgent need and opportunity to develop our energy system, backed by storage and clean transmission technologies, assuring Australia has a low-cost electricity system that can meet electricity demands as we industrialise and electrify our industrial and digital systems. And of course these challenges must be discussed in the same breath as the opportunities that come with them. In a changing global environment, we have the opportunity to fundamentally uplift Australia's productivity, our economic resilience, and our economic diversification for the betterment of all Australians, Australians in our outer suburbs and Australians in our regional communities, chief amongst them. New biotechnologies and medical manufacturing capabilities from which Australia and all of our partners around the world will benefit. New high-tech defence technologies and sovereign capabilities that keep Australians and our partners safe. Adopting and advancing new technologies like artificial science, quantum computing, advanced robotics to transform professional and social lives and industrial processes at an unprecedented pace. This government is actively focused on the relationship between our science and engineering capabilities and the national interest, on building Australia's future. Not second-guessing or talking our industrial competitiveness down, but betting on Australia and Australians. The government released a national robotics strategy that anticipates and encourages the adoption of robotic technologies that will improve the competitiveness of Australian industry. We invested in the creation of 4 AI Adopt Centres, a down payment on our approach to working with Australian firms to spread the adoption and diffusion of artificial intelligence technologies in every Australian business. The government in 2023, I paid tribute to my predecessor here, Ed Husick, launched a national quantum strategy to grow a skilled quantum workforce and build the world's first error-corrected quantum computer here in Brisbane. That is a real achievement for Australia and for Queensland. That enormous capability being built here, right here in Brisbane. We're working in a coordinated way across government to help Australia seize the opportunity of the world's shift to low-carbon technologies, processing critical minerals, engineering new clean technologies and infrastructure, making the storage and products and recycling the components in Australia, benefiting Australia's researchers, Australian firms and Australian workers. Our $15 billion National Reconstruction Fund has a particular role to play here, and it has already made some far-sighted investments in Australia's AI and quantum capabilities, for example. The Finance Minister and I recently released a new statement of expectations for the fund, lifting our level of ambition, making sure that that fund is engaging with the opportunities for commercialisation and engaging effectively with our Future Made in Australia agenda. And I'm very pleased to announce today that my department, the Department of Industry, Science and Resources, has begun conducting exploratory talks with officials from the European Commission to develop the possibility of Australian association with Horizon Europe, the world's largest research and innovation fund. Horizon Europe is a $170 billion fund directed towards the EU's flagship priorities like climate and energy, cancer research, ocean and water science, soil health. On the face of it, this offers Australia and Australian universities and our research and development sector enormous opportunities to deepen practical research collaboration and to diversify our research work with our European Union friends. And while officials scope out the detail and the cost and the value for money propositions of a potential arrangement, I want the research and development sector and our universities to develop for government in a practical way, to set out how this will, in practical terms, deliver real benefits for specific programs of Australian research that matter for the public interest. I'm really looking forward to that dialogue as well over the coming months, how we can make sure that we build in accountability and purpose into that arrangement here in Australia. It's too early, of course, I hasten to add, for any decisions or commitments from government, but this is a really important conversation for Australia to be having. In terms of purposeful engagement with the world, I'm also really enthusiastic about the work that ATSI itself facilitates, including through the important Global Science and Tech Diplomacy Program and Global Connections Fund. Embracing the best global talent that we can attract here, of course, is in keeping, I think, with the progressive patriotism that Prime Minister Anthony Albanese invoked following our recent federal election. Because what progressive Australian patriots understand in a way that it's important to build confidence around is that Australia is stronger, smarter, safer and more resilient when it is engaged with the world's ideas and the world's engineering and technological sciences talent. Thank you very much. Welcome to Brisbane, and I hope that the next few days make a really powerful contribution. Thank you.